I knew you'd be here.
Get consent without you.
9 o'clock, I'll open this Commerce Committee.
Executive session.
Second.
We've got a motion for executive session by Senator Kavanaugh, seconded by Senator Susie. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Great. We're going to go through 8, 9 bills today. Please, if you're not happy with the outcome, Karen, don't glare at me.
That's probably not a good sign.
Senator Bradley, would you like to talk about 210 to start with?
Yeah, I know we had a long hearing the other day. I tried to listen carefully to the hearing, and people who were saying. I try to listen carefully to the, testimony of people that were against the bill, and having spoken with the people that asked me to introduce it, first of all, hope we don't try to exec it today, but secondly, there may be an avenue for possible compromise, and a couple of things that would help, I think, if there were just an outright ban on forcing somebody to pay to vote, that would be helpful. Possibly considering lowering the 51% proposed threshold if certain things happened. And I am not aware that there's a requirement that Rock and Age, who does the organizations, has to send a certified letter to every resident. So I don't know if that's the case or not the case, but it should be the case. And then a lower threshold might be appropriate if there was an opportunity for either proxy voting or maybe better absentee voting that was, in a written form. I mean, we heard testimony about, for any number of reasons, people couldn't come, but when you're forcing, people to mortgage their future, you ought to make the voting as inclusive as possible. So I don't know. I mean, obviously, I think 4 of us co-sponsored the bill. I really appreciate, that. I'm happy to work with Donna if any of these ideas make any sense to you.
They do, and I appreciate that. I mean, obviously, we did hear a lot. There's no question that there are some issues that were raised that, as you said, may require some compromise, but I do think there's a real problem for some folks, and I think that the process is one that we haven't looked at in a long time. And I think over time, some things that in its inception seemed normal really aren't anymore. So I would certainly appreciate the opportunity to work with you to try to come up with something that meets people's needs.
Okay,
Great.
thank you.
Yeah, so you'll work on that, Senator, and we'll take it up next time. So I'd like to go to SB 203.
Move on to pass.
We have a motion of ought to pass by Senator
Second.
Kavanaugh, seconded by Senator Susie. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nay.
So,
3-2.
Mr. Chairman, do we have to vote on this today?
We
It's
just
not
did.
an FN vote.
We just did.
Well, we did, but obviously the motion failed.
Would you like to hold it?
I would actually, because I would rather it not be on this coming calendar, given some of the other things that we're going to be dealing with.
And I would do that for you.
And I would appreciate that very
Yeah.
much. Thank you, sir.
Are we gonna do 202, the cosmetic bill?
I think we could.
I didn't have it on my list. Let's do that one
It
instead.
does have an FN.
Okay, let's take up 202.
I'll move ought to pass,
Second.
and I would move ought to pass on Senator Waters' amendment that he introduced at the hearing, 366.
Second.
So we have a motion of ought to pass on amendment 0366S. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? We have a motion of ought to pass as amended. All
So
in
moved.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Good.
Move consent?
We have a motion of consent by
Second.
Senator Susie, seconded by Senator Bradley. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Senator Bradley, you want to take that one out?
Yeah, sure.
So I'd like to take up Senate Bill 249 on short-term rentals. Senator Bradley, do you have an amendment on that?
I have two amendments.
So can I have a motion on the underlying bill?
Ought to pass?
We have a motion of ought to pass by Senator Susie. Thank you very much. Seconded by Senator Kavanaugh. And we have
So
Bradley Special.
you should have two amendments, 410 and 515. So why don't we, if I could, start with 410?
Please do.
All right, so there are, it builds off of your amendment, Senator French. The first change on line 15
249.
and 16 of my amendment, which builds off your amendment, is to add the phrase "or other municipal ordinances." So it'd be parking, noise, safety, health, sanitation, or other related municipal ordinances, just in the event that there are other ordinances that come into play.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the first change. The second change is at the top of page 2. On the first line, a municipality may establish a reasonable fee to cover all, that's the change, all costs to the municipality. Just want to make sure that all costs are covered. Then on line 5, the same thing that was on page 1, or other municipal ordinances, obviously to repeat that. I think the way your amendment had been written was it just was health and safety, so it also puts in sanitation, noise, parking, or other municipal ordinances for consistency. And then the fourth, and I know having talked to all of you except Senator Kavanaugh on this, you may not think is a good idea, but I feel like we at least ought to discuss it. Lines 6 through 9 would give a municipality the opportunity to adopt an ordinance that sets an upper limit of 180 days per year on the number of days that a short-term rental could be rented as a short-term rental. And it goes on to say that it's not retroactive. So for any short-term rental that was in effect prior to the effective date of the section, such an ordinance wouldn't apply. So I think in some of the towns that I represent, there is a fear that people are just buying properties exclusively for short-term rentals, and this would at least give towns an opportunity to put an upper limit of 180 days. So if there's no support for it, I'll withdraw the amendment. Everybody's told me there's no support for it. The second amendment is 515. It's the same as 410 without lines 6 through 9 on page 2.
Which is the restriction of 180 days,
No,
correct?
that's gone in the second amendment.
In the second amendment, but everything else that you mentioned.
Everything else is in the second amendment.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with everything else except the 180 days limitation, so why don't you just speak to your second.
I'm assuming everybody else feels the same way.
I personally don't know how you would enforce it.
All right, in that case, knowing I'd be outvoted 1-4, I will introduce Amendment 515 and move it ought to pass. That doesn't have that section at the end of the amendment.
Thank you. We have a motion of ought to pass on Amendment 515, was it? And second, by Senator Bradley, seconded by Senator Gannon. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. We have a motion of ought to pass as amended by Senator Bradley, seconded by Senator Susie. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. We'll move consent by Senator Kavanaugh, seconded by Senator Susie. All in favor? Aye. Not Bradley, so Bradley will take it out.
Okay.
All right.
It could come off if it went on, but
I suspect
It's a
that
pretty
there might be
substantial issue, I
others that want
understand.
to discuss it.
So if we could go right to 331, please.
yes, Mr. Chairman. This was my bill. I did have an amendment drafted, and I think Aaron has distributed it to you. The amendment number is 0605. Let me just move ought to pass,
Yeah.
and somebody could just second, so I can at least
We have a
talk
motion of
about
ought to
it.
pass by Senator Susie, seconded by Senator
So
Kavanaugh.
this was the issue I had brought as a result of a constituent request. And I understand in talking with the department as well as some folks in the industry that there was concern that the language as drafted made what seemed to be to them a significant change. And what we were seeking to do with the bill is something that companies can offer now. They don't all choose to, but can. So the amendment that I have drafted, which is before you, amends the next part of the statute. So instead of amending Roman 3 and taking out the language about uninsureds, what this would provide is that in addition to the mandatory waiver under 3, in cases involving an uninsured, the insurer that issues an automobile insurance policy that contains coverage for physical damage by reason of collision may waive the deductible. So what it does is it at least puts in statute that there is the ability for a carrier to offer this line with the deductible waiver in it. And it makes it permissive. We came up with the language yesterday. If, it's the committee's desire to move forward with it, fine. If not, if there are still questions or you have questions of the department, I understand that as well. But trying to address the concerns that were raised during the hearing.
I don't know if that covers all the concerns that we had with this.
Has this been run by any of the people that, because there were a lot of people that proposed the bill?
I've made them aware that it was coming. It was only drafted yesterday. So once again, it's obviously up to the will of the committee. I'd appreciate your consideration. If people want to run this by others, that's fine too.
And no one's here.
Yeah. Well, we have a motion of ought to pass.
Just on the amendment.
No, I had to move out to pass on the bill in
Yeah.
order to talk about the amendment, so.
You want to just hold this so we can
Yeah.
check with them? Why don't we do
I
that?
feel better, hold
345, youth employment.
I'll move on to pass.
We have a motion of ought to pass by Senator Bradley, seconded by,
Question? You
Sec-
moving your amendment?
we're just on the
Well, I moved
underlying
on to
bill.
pass,
Okay. On the
I'll second.
yes.
Seconded by Senator Susie. Thank you. Senator Bradley?
So, we have an amendment from Senator Hennessy, and I'm just
Yes.
looking at it. It's 0093. So I would move ought to pass on that amendment, but I would want to make a couple of committee changes. I'm looking for where they are meant to go.
Aaron, do you have that amendment?
Yeah, I need to grab copies.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Good, that gives me a chance to be organized.
I think it's the last line before the effective date. Instead of repealing that, I think we want to leave that in. And then if we could talk about the additional language that Senator Gannon and I looked at.
Does everybody have it?
What's the number on it? 93?
Yes.
Yes, I have that.
0093, because she passed it out at the hearing, I believe.
Yeah.
All right.
You're waiting for copies. Okay.
So in this, I'm looking at it again. There is nothing about setting a limitation of when a minor would have to cease to work. And I thought that there was, I hope that there seems to be some consensus around setting that time at 10:30. And I would hope that we can adopt that. And I would also like to see on line 13 that 30 hours become 35 hours. Oh, I'm sorry, it should be in, the 10:30 should be in line 13. That's, maybe if I had my glasses on, it would help.
Senator Bradley, so my only concern would be, I had thought when I've talked to most of the players and yourself that we'd come to an agreement on 10 o'clock.
Yes.
Why 10?
Well, I'll tell you what, Senator. Most of the kids start school at around 7:15, so they're up at 6:15. So if you leave your place of employment by 10, I'm thinking maybe you get to bed by 11, give you 7 hours sleep. That's the average kid. I understand some kids might be at a VOTEC and start at noon. Well, they can do something different, and there's waivers in there. Senator Susie saw a place, there's an exception, you could go, if you had something like that, you start at noon, then you could work later at night. But for the average kid, we were trying to get them 7 hours sleep. Most schools are starting 7:15 to 7:30, most high schools in the state. So we thought gave you time to get home, have some food, go to bed, get 7 hours sleep. On a school night, again, so 180 days of the year, there's no school, you can work as much as you want. On Friday night, Saturday night, go for it, work all day, all night, I don't care. But on the school nights, I want you getting a good night's sleep, at least 7 hours, so you can function, learn the phys chem, you know all the courses you took, advanced everything, all those AP courses you took, Senator. I want all the kids to have our opportunity, and Senator Susie and I feel an adequate time at home would be, they'd get home around 11.
So now that I have my glasses on,
Senator, thank you.
which is a new trend for me. If we were to go with Senator Hennessy's amendment, and it says shall work, and then we strike more than 6 consecutive days, but add past either 10 or 10:30, and if you'll go with 35,
Yeah, I'll
and
go with
striking
35.
the
if you
6
give me-
consecutive
10.
days, I could go with 10 o'clock. I think that, and having spoken with people that are concerned about it, 10 o'clock would be, they prefer 10:30, but 10 o'clock would be okay.
Mr. Chairman, conceptually, I agree. I don't think that's the right place for it, though, Senator Bradley. I think where it belongs, and I did draft an amendment that I talked to Senator Gannon about. It says 9:30, happy to move it to 10. But I think if you look, starting on line 21, the repeal section, that's the section relative to youth night work. And that's where I think we would put in the 10 o'clock. And I think if we didn't repeal line 22, if we left that in statute, what that allows for is to relax the restrictions. If, for example, a particular business wanted to have youth working a night shift, a third shift, they could appeal to the department and just make that request of the commissioner. My understanding is that it does happen. Because what we were trying to do, Senator Gannon, I know, feels very strongly about a limit of time, but we were also trying to fix the existing language in the statute that's very complicated, that refers to shifts. So you can work later, provided you haven't already worked 2 shifts. When I spoke to the deputy commissioner, it is a complicated issue. And in order for someone, let's say a restaurant, to figure it out, you have to look at the schedule, you have to look at the individual's time card. So having a bright line was also a way to make it clearer for the worker and for the employer.
Well, somebody told me yesterday the current law is like the abacus rule.
Yes,
You know,
correct.
you're trying to figure out what has happened and what hasn't happened.
We call it the Gannon solution.
That was Sanborn that did this. I don't,
Procedurally, I did speak to some folks last night, and my understanding was 10 o'clock was okay with them, but my suggestion is that we pass Senator Hennessy's amendment, but remove line 22.
and where do we put the 10 o'clock in?
I have amendment 0338 that I would then offer, and strike 9:30, put in 10 o'clock.
All right,
And that would amend line 21 of Senator Hennessy's amendment. They would actually rest.
I don't have that. Do you have that, Aaron? Thank you.
So on line, for purposes of discussion, well, we need to vote on Hennessy's amendment first, but I would recommend that we strike line 22 so that we continue to allow the commissioner to grant a waiver if a company or an organization does want students to work, or children to work beyond the 10. So it frees businesses, if there's some special consideration that we haven't thought about, they can go to the commissioner, and the commissioner in his discretion, her
All right.
discretion, can grant.
I think that works.
On Hennessy's bill, striking line 22.
Well, I think all we need to do is adopt Senator Soucy's amendment
No, you have to strike.
on top of,
Right, 'cause mine only amends line 21.
right, exactly. We
But you
have to
have
adopt.
to take out line 22 because line 22 is being repealed by Senator Hennessy's amendment, and we want to leave it there.
Right.
We want to leave it in law, so.
Right, so a committee amendment, all right, this is complicated, but I
It
think,
really isn't.
I think it's easy enough. If on, starting with a Hennessy amendment,
Which, correct?
on line 13, strike more or 12 and 13, more than 6 consecutive days, or more, and change 30 to 35.
Right.
Okay, that'll be the first change. Then if we adopt that, and then Senator Susie's amendment, we adopt, and then as a committee amendment, we strike line 22 of Senator Hennessy's amendment. Does everybody understand that? Starting with me?
So I think the two changes you recommend to Senator Hennessy's amendment, we do as one vote. Then if we adopt my amendment, that
Yeah,
takes
so we,
care of the line
adopting
21.
Senator Hennessy's amendment, a committee amendment would
Yep.
be what I outlined, striking the words on line 12 and 13, adding 35 to 30, and striking line 22.
Right.
All right, I'll move that.
Thank you.
Question first before you move that? Could you live with 33 hours? 35, 30, 33?
No,
I'm giving you
35.
the stronger side.
No, no,
I'm giving you the big
35.
half of the stick.
He doesn't have the support of 33. So we have a motion of ought to pass on amendment 93S with the changes being striking out 6 consecutive days and changing 30 hours to 35 and striking line 22 at the same time. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
I'll second it.
Yeah, Senator Susie already did. Pay attention. No. I know, he's the only one who's.
Yeah, he's got to put all this together after, so. Okay,
So now we have amendment 338S.
yes, and on line 5, I would strike out the 9:30 and replace it with 10, and I would move the amendment.
And I'll second that.
And we have a motion of ought to pass on amendment 338 with the changes being from 9:30 to 10 PM. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I'll move ought to pass as amended.
And we have a motion of ought to pass as amended by Senator Bradley, seconded by Senator Kavanaugh.
Yeah,
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Great.
move consent?
We have a motion of consent. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Senator Susie,
I would be happy to take that.
thank you. And 355, the old.
I'll move ought to pass.
Second,
We have a motion of ought to pass by Senator Bradley, seconded by Senator Susie. Senator Bradley.
I would move ought to pass on amendment 259 that
second,
I co-sponsor with Senator Susie, and I'm going to explain every piece of it.
Please do.
Actually, it's pretty simple. I mean, we can go through it and let others explain it, but what this amendment is seeking to do is align this proposed change in New Hampshire to the proposed federal legislation and to make it consistent. And according to the testimony we've received, there's broad buy-in in Washington, even though it may not move on these kind of provisions. So other states are adopting this language and adopting it actually with quite a bit of unanimity. The one thing that is in here is a contingency on page 5 that you know, we added in about what would happen if the federal legislation or something very similar to the federal legislation were to move forward, then section 1 would not take effect. And section 1 is the balance of the amendment. So I think, you know, this is good to go.
Okay.
I mean, there are a couple of people here that, well, Mr. Demers was here. Curtis might want to walk through it if you have any questions on the specifics, but.
Anyone have any questions? So do we have a motion on amendment 259?
We did.
Did we do that? I thought it was. Okay, very good. All in favor of amendment 259? Aye. Opposed? Motion on the bill is amended.
Ought to pass.
Ought to pass as amended by Senator Bradley, seconded by Senator Susie. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
I'll move consent.
Second?
We have a motion of consent by Senator Bradley, seconded by Senator Susie. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Senator Bradley?
Sure.
$347. Do I have a motion?
Interim study.
We have a motion of interim study by Senator Bradley, seconded by Senator Gannon. And would you like to speak to that? No, okay.
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Opposed.
3-2.
What was the alternative motion gonna be?
Inexpedient.
No. All right.
I mean, there are technical issues with, we didn't discuss it, but there were technical issues with the bill. There was no real support for it.
Said again, you want to take that out?
I thought interim study was a better way of dealing.
428.
Motion for ITL.
Motion of ITL by Senator Gannon, seconded by
I'll second it.
Senator Bradley. Thank you.
Could I ask someone to explain why a bill that had no opposition and was drafted with the assistance of the BFA can't be supported?
Let me find it.
Okay.
I just had it down as ITL because I didn't feel it was needed after hearing the testimony, Senator.
I wasn't in favor of this. I thought it was too targeted. I thought it was an equity bill. I wanted it more inclusive of the general population of New Hampshire. I didn't like lines 19, 20, and
20,
anyways,
what?
we can discuss it further on the floor when it goes there. But
We have a
Well, I
motion.
think, if I could just speak
Sure.
to it, Mr. Chairman, because I'm going to vote against this motion, because I
Yep.
think this is an important program, and I think it's crafted in such a way that it uses ARPA funds to stimulate business, which is a good thing. To the extent there aren't enough, the governor is authorized to take other funds from the general fund. But this is a way to help new people enter into the business market with good ideas. Now, the language from 19 and 20 comes from the federal government, so it's in keeping with language that we already have for people that may have challenges in accessing capital. It's enabling to help people get businesses started and to become entrepreneurs in this state, which to me seems to be a more than laudable goal. It should encourage people to begin new businesses, and particularly as a result of the pandemic and so many businesses that did go out, trying to help people get restarted, I think is an important thing to do and something the state should value. So for all those reasons, I'm going to vote against the ITL, and I would encourage my colleagues to do that as well.
Senator?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree with Senator Susie 100%. And being part of the governor's reopening task force, we've heard from so many small business owners that were struggling, had to go out of business, trying to come back, and that this targets them. And really, we've heard, I don't know how many hours of testimony from small business owners in getting their employees back and up and running. And this is something that I think really helps them get back to pre-pandemic business.
My issue is the fact that it's not just strictly ARPA funds, and I think that, based on, discussions I've had, the Bureau of Economic Affairs is actually going to be proposing a significant amount of, probably not dollars targeted like this, but stimulus dollars to help, in training and those kind of initiatives. So, I don't know. I don't really feel it's necessary at this time.
Well, I would just encourage you to, the language clearly could be all ARPA funds, provided that there are enough there, so they're discretionary. I think the key was ensuring that this complied with all of the different rules and regulations that come with some of these ARPA fund programs. So I think the language about the remainder being appropriated as fallback language, and I think that's been listed in other pieces of legislation. I also think this bill, as a matter of policy, is good, and this is the policy committee. And if the issue is really funding, that if we move this bill forward, the finance committee can look at the funding piece and change that language if that's the concern on page 2.
We have a motion, ITL. Everyone ready? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
3-2. Senator Bradley?
Oh, yeah, thanks a lot.
No, Senator Bradley, would you like me to give this to Senator Gannon to take out?
You should take one out.
Okay, I'll take that one out. We'll take up Senate Bill 451.
motion for ITL.
We have a motion of ITL by Senator Gannon, seconded by Senator Bradley.
Yep, second.
I'll speak for a second. So I just thought it was too risky with taxpayers' money. And I had asked people, you know, the likelihood, I had asked to get some of these sponsors of the bill to get me results of similar legislation and a success rate, and I haven't gotten that. It just seems, they were even talking about that. It was a speculative, high venture, risky bill to spend $5 million. And then we had Dan McGuire talk about the angel fund investments, and he thought it was a very risky endeavor to use with taxpayer money, so
Yeah.
I say no.
Well, we did hear testimony to the effect that Vermont, Maine, and Massachusetts all have programs like this. Once again, there are some reasons to be proud of standing out and doing things a little differently, but there are other times where I think we discourage young people and entrepreneurs with some of the policy that we set. And once again, this is another example of trying to encourage business and growth in this community. And you know, we know, although we're seeing an increase in population, our population is aging. And we need to be more attractive to younger people to either stay in New Hampshire after college or to attract them to the state. And programs that encourage research and development for startups is something that I think is certainly meritorious. And I think the investment in our own people and their ideas is something we should continue to do. And once again, I'm sure this bill would go to the Finance Committee. Senator Daniels would take it if the finances are the issue. But the idea has merit.
You know, I heard also that the universities have endowments and they aren't willing or haven't been coming forward to doing the same project. So we do have the private investors that have and do this all the time, and I think that's where it should stay.
I'll just
Senator
finish
Gannon?
up again, risky money, it's early stage capital, the business they were talking about, highly risky. You got angel investors, as you just said, our state's doing great, we're the best place to live, work and raise a family, we're number 1 to number 3 in every category. My employers are thriving and doing good, like Sig Sauer, they're looking for an extra 1,000 people. It isn't like we don't have jobs for people to go to, we're growing, and I just don't want to put the money into risky ventures.
So we have a motion of ITL. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
No.
3-2. I'll take that out. That's all I had planned for today.
There are a couple of others we might be.
That's what
Yeah.
I was just gonna, that's all I had planned
Oh,
on
okay,
for
I'm sorry.
today. Now, do you have anything you'd like to bring up, Senator Bradley, that you think is ready to go?
Where's the one on,
About the liquor bill, when you're in the.
no.
No, I
was
get a-
thinking more of, Senate Bill 211. I'd move interim study.
Second.
Take up Senate Bill 211. We have a motion of interim study. Would you like to speak to that, Senator?
Yeah, I think it's well-intentioned. There was testimony from the Association of Justice. I'm looking at a email from Mr. O'Connor of Shaheen and Gordon. It said it is too broad and it upsets the bargain of workers' compensation in a way that's unnecessary. So it just, I don't know, just based on the testimony, didn't seem that it's ready for prime time.
Okay. Anyone else? We have a motion of interim study on Senate Bill 211. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? I'll
move.
We have a motion of
consent.
consent
Second.
by Senator Bradley, seconded by Senator Susie. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Senator Kavanaugh? No? I'll take it out.
I think we could do 209 also.
209. So we'll take up Senate Bill 209 relative to electronic payments.
So I'd
Wages.
move ought to pass.
We have a motion of ought to pass by Senator Bradley, seconded by Senator Gannon.
So we have two amendments that were introduced, one by Senator Carson, who's the sponsor, and one by Senator Susie.
I think I have Senator Carson's.
Senator Susie's amendment was 336.
Oh, I do, here.
And Senator Carson's was
27?
27.
Yeah.
So I think Senator Carson's amendment's good to go, and I talked with Rudy Ogden about Senator Susie's amendment, and I think it is narrowly targeted, Senator Susie's amendment, toward what happens if the card doesn't work, and a process to make sure the employee gets paid right away. And in talking with both Senator Susie and Mr. Ogden, I think I would support both amendments.
Senator Susie, could you just speak to your amendment quickly for
Sure.
me? Thanks.
Sure, so Senator Bradley said, so I do have a fundamental disagreement with taking away the right of the employee to make the determination of payment terms. But in the event, because I think I can count, that this is going to happen anyway, I did ask the department if they get complaints about this issue when pay cards are issued. And what they said is typically the employees that do have issues don't know where to turn to get assistance because the employer oftentimes will say the problem is with the bank or the card. And in the meantime, as this is being worked out, the employee goes without pay, which we do have laws on the books. If, regardless of what medium you're paying in, you have to pay people in a timely fashion. That's clear. Whether it's every week or every other week, you have to make sure that payment is there, otherwise it's an offense. So this would just ensure that if this is the medium selected, there is a process for the employee to obtain their pay in a timely fashion, whether through a replacement card or through a check or something else.
Okay, good.
All right, so I'll move amendment
27.
0027, Senator Carson's amendment.
We have a motion of ought to pass on amendment 0027. And we have a second by Senator Gannon. Now you can speak to it.
I just don't like the fact of, I mean, if it's agreement between an employer and employee to how you're gonna be paid, I think us getting in the middle of that, saying this is the way you're gonna do it, as well as the fees of accessing your pay, I just can't get beyond that. I mean, if we could, and I'm sure there's no case for it on the committee, but to, if we could keep that, that agreement with the employee to agree to that, I'm going to, no, that's there, I understand that. It's
So,
tough for me to say, to have an employer say, this is how you're gonna get paid, and when you access your money, there's gonna be fees to access it. I can't
yeah,
get around that.
I think and I understand where you're coming from. I think the issue is, though, that if you, the cost of moving from one system to the other, if you don't have the ability to do it for all employees, it just doesn't make sense to keep two payroll methodologies. So, you know, this concept's been around for quite a while, and the vast majority of people don't have a problem with it. And I think with Senator Susie's amendment, it mitigates against, you know, anybody that, for whatever reason, couldn't access their paycheck or pay amount.
So we have a motion of ought to pass on amendment 0027. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
3-2. And
I'll move amendment 336, that's
Second.
Senator Susi's amendment.
we have an amendment, motion of ought to pass on amendment 0336S of ought to pass by Senator Bradley, seconded by Senator Susi. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'll move ought to pass as amended.
We have a motion of ought to pass as amended by Senator Bradley, seconded by Senator Gannon. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
3-2. Senator Gannon will take that one out. Anything else you think we can, ready to
How
go?
about,
Some of these need slight amendments made.
on 385, the bill we heard the other day on financial exploitation?
Sure, Bill, but I would move ought to pass.
We have a motion of
And
ought
I'll
to
second it.
pass on 385 by Senator Susi, seconded by Senator Bradley.
And I would move amendment 520.
Second.
And would you like to speak to that?
Yeah, this was an agreement between the bankers and the banking department. It changes the notification requirement around, and there's a reporting provision in the amendment.
Were we gonna change that from August 1st to October 1st?
Yes, I believe that that's the case.
22 or 23?
22
22.
was what Mr. Williams had requested from the department.
October, Ryan, I can't hear you.
October 1st, 2022, instead of August 1st.
It's my birthday, in case everyone.
Is it?
So, yeah,
Oh, wow.
just keep that in
I'll
mind.
try to remember that.
Thank you.
All right, so I'd move the amendment with that change on page 2, line 1, by October 1, 2022.
All in favor of the amendment as changed by changing the date on line 1, page 2, October 1st, 2022? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And
I move ought to pass as amended.
we have a motion of ought to pass as amended by Senator Bradley, seconded by Senator Kavanaugh. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We have a motion for consent, or do you want to?
So moved.
By Senator Bradley, seconded by Senator Susi. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And Senator Bradley, why don't you take that special out?
Okay.
That leaves us 5 bills that we'll finish off in a couple of weeks. Do I have a motion to come out of executive session? All in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you very much.
I'm gonna work on the consent blurbs, try to get them.
Yep. Yeah, make sure you sign off on the consent blurbs before,
Well, never mind, I guess it's too late.
what's the matter?
Did you?
I was gonna say, we could do maybe 214.
We could go back in session, couldn't we?
No.
No?
No?
Yeah,
What's
Come on.
214?
let's get it done. Relative to the conflict,
Wanna wait?
condo one? Okay. Okay.
We want to do all those in the same time.
Wow, you moved a big pile.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
get till 11:30, right? Isn't that what you wanted us? Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of early.
10.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Do you get a gold star if you hit double
Yeah.
figures?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So my thought is there would be a willingness to accept a lower threshold of 51% if there was a provision, can't pay to vote, okay? Can't be a member to have to vote, that any organizing entity, which would be ROC, would have to send a certified letter. And I don't know if that happens now to every park resident about the pending discussion, and then there be some sort of mechanism for either absentee voting or proxy voting.
Barred by statute right now.
Well, we'd have to fix that.
I would love to have a little conversation about some maybe miscommunication from the folks that you heard from about how it happens and what the process is right now. And I think we'll be in a better place to come up
Okay.
with all the solutions.
All right, well, I mean, that's when I think,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know where it goes, but I think that's a reasonable compromise.
I will, let me just process that.
Okay.
All of those things are, that's a lot more than the bill is right now.
Right, but we're backing, I'm proposing to back off to probably something like 33%, which is